You know that feeling when you hear a motorcycle before you see it? The kind that rattles windows 3 blocks away and makes car alarms think twice about going off? Yeah, that's exactly where we're starting today. Because Honda just went and did something nobody expected. They resurrected the VTX nameplate, and not as some half-hearted tribute act either. We're talking about the 2026 VTX 1800N. And let me tell you, this thing is aimed directly at Milwaukee's backyard with every intention of starting a brawl. Harley engineers supposedly caught wind of what was coming and asked for a sneak peek. Think about that for a second. When does the competition ever admit they're nervous? Almost never, but here we are. So what exactly did Honda cook up? Well, strap in, or maybe strap on, because this beast runs on a 1795cc liquid-cooled V-twin that's been completely rethought from the pistons up. They didn't just dust off the old blueprints and call it a day. Honda went in and rejiggered the fuel injection, played with the crank balancing, retuned the whole engine map until the throttle felt buttery smooth, and those annoying vibrations from the original practically vanished. You're looking at roughly 120 horses and around 168 Newton-meters of twist. But here's the kicker. That torque arrives so early, you'll wonder why you ever bothered revving anything else. Just grab a handful of throttle and go. Passing semis on the interstate barely even registers as an event anymore. It's that effortless. Okay, I need to interrupt myself for a second, because something's been bugging me. When was the last time a Japanese cruiser genuinely made American iron nervous? I'm serious. The original VTX 1800 sold nearly 30,000 units in its first 2 years, back when it held the crown for biggest production V-twin on the planet. That was a different era. Magazines ruled the roost, YouTube wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eye, and riders actually read spec sheets on paper. But now, Honda's walking right back into that fight like they never left. The gearbox is a 6-speed with ratios that make sense whether you're ripping through back roads or droning along the interstate for hours. But here's where Honda made an interesting call. They stuck with shaft drive instead of jumping on the chain bandwagon. Less maintenance, smoother delivery, more time actually riding instead of wrestling with grease and adjustment tools. For a bike tipping the scales where this one does, that's not just a nice to have, it's practically essential. Now let's talk about how this thing handles, because carrying around an engine that massive requires some serious structural thinking. Honda reinforced the frame to manage all that heft without turning parking lots into a nightmare of embarrassment and regret. Up front, there's a 47mm inverted fork with generous travel, and out back, you've got dual adjustable shocks. The result? Highway stability that inspires confidence, but also enough composure in the twisties that you won't feel like you're wrestling a water buffalo through every turn. And speaking of parking lots, if you've ever tried U-turning a big cruiser while pretending you totally meant to put your foot down at that weird angle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Honda clearly remembers those struggles too. The wide bars, low seat height, and relaxed reach to the controls all scream, we actually thought about this, because nothing kills the cool factor faster than dropping your $20,000 motorcycle in front of a crowd of onlookers. But this is where the VTX 1800N starts feeling like it actually belongs in 2026 rather than 2006. Honda's calling the design language Neo-Retro 2.0, which is corporate speak for we kept the broad chest and sweeping fenders, but sharpened everything up until it looked mean and modern. LED lighting everywhere, front, back, integrated daytime signatures, a full-width taillight that'll make other riders do a double take. The paint jobs lean into deep metallics and bold contrasts too. This isn't a bike that blends in, it demands attention, whether you want it or not. Inside the cockpit, there's a 5-inch TFT display handling speed, nav, ride modes, and pairing with Honda's RideLink app so your phone actually talks to the bike like they're old friends. You get Tour, City, and Sport modes, traction control, and a 6-axis IMU quietly keeping things upright if the road decides to get nasty. Add keyless ignition and a USB-C port, and Honda's basically telling you, yeah, you know you want retro vibes, but we also know you don't want to be that guy with a dead phone and a crumpled paper map from 2019. All right, let's address the elephant in the room, the price tag. Honda hasn't dropped official numbers yet, but if you look at where this bike is aiming, you're probably staring down something competitive with the Fat Boy 114 and the Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse. Both of those live in that high $18,000 to low $20,000 bracket, depending on how fancy you get with options. Given Honda's history of undercutting rivals while offering more standard tech, I wouldn't be shocked if the VTX sneaks in a few grand cheaper and still makes everyone else look overpriced. That alone could send shockwaves through the heavyweight cruiser segment. And honestly, that's the whole point, isn't it? The VTX 1800N isn't just trying to be a good motorcycle. It's marching straight into Harley's turf and Indian's turf with a chip on its shoulder and something to prove. Legendary reliability, a service network that spans the globe, a balance of brute force and everyday usability that Honda's been perfecting for decades. The original VTX 1800 built its reputation on being the big dog in the yard. This new one seems determined to remind everyone why that reputation existed in the first place. So, where does that leave us? A bike with genuine lineage, stump-pulling torque, and enough presence to fill a room, built for riders who want that thunderous American-style experience without sacrificing the bulletproof dependability Honda's known for. But here's the kicker, the part I've been holding back. Everything you just heard, the styling, the specs, the tech, the swagger, none of it is sitting in dealerships right now. Not a single unit. What you just watched is Honda's VTX 1800N concept, a vision, a taste of what could happen if they decide to pull the trigger on bringing this legend back for real. Whether it actually reaches production in this exact form is still completely up in the air. But if Honda's even entertaining something this close to showroom ready, the cruiser world better start paying attention. If you want to see another concept that might just flip its entire segment on its head, go ahead and click that video on your screen right now. I promise you won't want to miss what we uncovered. Thanks for hanging out with us, and I'll see you on the next one.